Today, we have a really exciting mission ahead of us. We are going to unpack the core principles of the lean startup.
Right, and we're basing this on excerpts from Eric Ries' foundational book and also that really revealing talks at Google presentation he gave.
Exactly. I'm so pumped for this because the ultimate goal today for you, listening right now, is to figure out how to stop wasting time building things that absolutely nobody wants.
Which is surprisingly what most companies end up doing.
It is. And, it's funny because we tend to romanticize the whole startup culture. You watch movies like The Social Network, and it's all dramatic coding sessions and parties and sudden genius ideas.
Yeah, the Hollywood version of entrepreneurship.
Right. But the real gritty work of building a company, that usually happens during those boring, dialogue-free photo montages in the movie. It's not glamorous at all.
It really isn't, and I think we need to set the context here early on. Entrepreneurship isn't just about two kids hacking away in a garage. It's actually a fundamental form of management.
A form of management.
Yes. Eric Ries defines a startup very specifically. It is a human institution designed to create something new under conditions of extreme uncertainty.
Extreme uncertainty being the key phrase there.
Exactly. And that brings us to the biggest problem. The biggest waste in modern business isn't inefficiency. It's not that we are building things too slowly. It's that we are flawlessly and perfectly building a product that zero people actually want.
Yet it's such a gut punch. Perfectly executing a terrible plan.
It happens every day.
Which leads right into this fascinating visual from the sources. There's this graphic they talk about showing Web 2.0 startups from back in 2006.
The graveyard.
Yes, the Web 2.0 graveyard. So they show all these shiny new companies in 2006, and then they show the 2009 report card, and it's just covered in blood red X's. Dead company after dead company.
And the really insidious part of that graphic is what happens when you look at the survivors. The so-called green circles.
The ones that got acquired, right?
Right. We look at those acquisitions and call them successes, but it's often just success theater.
Success theater. I love that term. What does that actually look like on the inside?
Well, if you dig into those green circles, you have to ask how many of those acquired companies actually lived up to the massive dreams of their founders and early employees?
Probably very few.
Exactly. A lot of times, the acquisition just made the early investors a quick buck, saved face for the founders, and then the parent company quietly shut the product down a year later.
So even the wins were kind of fake wins. And honestly, I want to jokingly blame a dead guy for all of this.
Oh, Frederick Winslow Taylor.
Yes,
Yeah.
Frederick Winslow Taylor, the father of early 20th century scientific management, the guy who optimized factory workers.
He fundamentally changed how we view labor, breaking every task down to its smallest component.
Right, but the problem is we are still managing modern knowledge workers the exact same way Taylor managed guys shoveling coal in a factory.
We absolutely do. We treat software developers under this great man theory, assuming that if you just give a genius a spec sheet, they will build a masterpiece.
But startup management requires a completely different paradigm.
It does, because the dominant problem today has changed. In Taylor's time, the question was, can it be built?
And today.
Today, almost anything can be built. The question is, should it be built?
Should it be built? That is the million-dollar question. And it perfectly sets up this incredible anecdote about Eric Ries' own company, IMVU.
This is a classic example of learning the hard way.
Oh, it's brutal. So they were building this 3D avatar instant messaging add-on, and they spent 6 solid months on it. They wrote 25,000 lines of code.
Working day and night.
Literally killing themselves to get it ready. And they had this whole viral strategy mapped out. They thought, okay, people will use our 3D avatars, and then they'll naturally want to invite all their existing friends from AOL Instant Messenger or whatever to join them.
Which sounds perfectly logical in a boardroom.
Perfectly logical. But they launched the thing, and it completely fails.
Yeah.
The viral loop is dead on arrival.
Because they made one massive, untested assumption.
Right. They assumed users wanted to invite their existing friends. But it turned out users thought 3D avatars were kind of weird and didn't want to risk their social standing with their real-life friends. They wanted to use the avatars to make new friends.
A totally different use case.
Completely different. And the founder talks about feeling physically sick, like actual nausea, because he realized they could have learned that exact same lesson in 3 hours.
Instead of 6 months.
Yes, with a single, simple web page mock-up, just asking people to click a button to invite a friend. They didn't need 25,000 lines of code to learn that nobody wanted to click the button.
And that physically sick feeling is the painful birth of the minimum viable product, or MVP.
Let's redefine the MVP right now, because I think people completely misunderstand it.
They do. People think an MVP is just a buggy, half-finished version of the product you eventually want to launch.
Like a beta test.
Right, but it's not. An MVP is simply the minimum amount of effort required to learn if your business plan is actually correct.
It's an experiment.
Exactly. It's about getting through the build, measure, learn feedback loop as fast as humanly possible.
The build, measure, learn loop. Let's break that down for the listener.
Sure. You start with an idea. You build an MVP to test it. You measure how customers actually behave, not what they say, but what they do. And then you learn from that data to update your idea.
And the rule of thumb here is speed, right?
The only heuristic that matters for any piece of startup advice is this doesn't minimize the total time it takes to get through that loop. If it slows the loop down, don't do it.
Which brings us to a huge problem. How do you measure progress if the goal is just learning? Like, I always laugh at the old General Motors concept of standard volume.
Oh, the old accounting methods.
Yeah, where these massive teams of macroeconomic staff would accurately predict car sales 5 years out. And they could actually hit those numbers.
Because they're operating in a stable, known environment.
Right. But startups have literally never hit a roadmap prediction accurately in the history of the world.
No startup has ever perfectly executed their original 5-year forecast. It's a myth.
So if you can't use standard accounting, what do you use?
You need what Ries calls innovation accounting. You need a way to hold innovators accountable when there are no gross revenue numbers yet, and sometimes no customers yet.
Because if you don't have a system, you just end up doing what he calls product development astrology.
That's the perfect term for it, astrology. Because numbers go up, and the marketing team says, oh, it's our new PR campaign, numbers go down, and the engineering team says, oh, it's seasonal fluctuation. Everyone just makes up a story that makes them look good.
Nobody actually knows why anything is happening.
Yeah.
So how does innovation accounting actually fix this? You mentioned there are 3 specific stages.
Yes, 3 stages. Stage 1 is to establish a baseline. You have to build an MVP to get real microscale numbers on how a few customers are behaving.
And this baseline is usually terrible.
Right. It is almost always horribly disappointing, but it's real data.
And this is where the audacity of zero comes in.
Go ahead and explain that. It's a great concept.
It's this hilarious psychological trap where it is actually easier to raise venture capital when you have $0 in revenue than when you have $1 in revenue.
Because zero revenue leaves the dream intact.
Exactly. With $0, you can project $1 billion in year 3. But the moment you earn exactly $1, investors extrapolate that out and say, well, you're not an overnight success. You only made $1.
It forces you to face reality, which is why you need to establish that baseline, no matter how ugly it is.
Okay, so that's stage 1. What's stage 2?
Stage 2 is tuning the engine. Every product development, every marketing campaign, every new feature should be an attempt to drive that horrible baseline metric closer to the ideal numbers in your business plan.
So you're running experiments to see if you can move the needle.
Right. And you evaluate these experiments using a standard report. You look at specific learning milestones.
And if the needle doesn't move?
That leads to stage 3, pivot or persevere. You schedule a meeting in advance to look at the data objectively.
Why in advance?
Because if you don't schedule it beforehand, the team will just keep endlessly tweaking things, promising that the next feature will be the magic bullet. You have to force a decision point.
That makes sense. And if the data shows that split testing is yielding diminishing returns, like no matter what feature you add, the numbers just flatline, that's when you pivot.
Exactly. But to make that decision, you have to be looking at the right numbers, which brings up the crucial difference between vanity metrics and actionable metrics.
Oh man. Vanity metrics. We see this everywhere. Startups putting out press releases like, we just indexed 4 billion pages, or we had 10 million raw page views this month.
And those numbers mean absolutely nothing.
They are purely for making your competitors jealous.
They are. Vanity metrics always go up and to the right, naturally, as the internet grows, but they don't help you make decisions.
So what makes a metric actionable?
Actionable metrics are usually per customer behaviors measured at a microscale. They have to follow 3 requirements to be effective. They must be actionable, accessible, and auditable.
Meaning you can actually understand cause and effect.
Right. If we change feature X, did customer cohort Y increase their engagement?
Cohort analysis is huge here.
It's the only way to track real progress. Instead of looking at total cumulative users, You look at groups of people who joined this week versus the people who joined last week.
Did this week's group perform better based on the changes we made?
Exactly. That is an actionable metric. It tells you what to do next. And the relationship between split testing, offering two different versions of a product, and actionable metrics is what cures that product development astrology.
Because the data tells the story, not the marketing team's ego.
Precisely.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting. Let's talk about the most overused, misunderstood word in all of Silicon Valley.
The pivot.
The pivot. Everyone says they're pivoting, but usually they're just flailing around.
Flailing or just completely abandoning their original vision and starting from scratch.
But the actual definition in the lean startup is very specific. A pivot means keeping one foot firmly rooted in what you have learned so far, while fundamentally changing one other thing about the business model.
Yes. It's a structured course correction designed to test a new fundamental hypothesis.
And there are specific types of pivots, right?
Many types. You could have a zoom pivot, where a single feature becomes the whole product, or a zoom out pivot, where the whole product becomes just a single feature of something larger.
Or a customer segment pivot.
Exactly, where you realize the product is great, but you've been selling it to the wrong people.
And this shatters the myth of the genius founder.
It really does. Successful founders usually don't have intrinsically better ideas than failed founders.
They just pivot faster.
They realize their initial idea is terrible and they pivot away from it quicker than anyone else.
Which brings up a totally mind-bending concept for the listener. A new way to look at a startup's runway.
This changes everything about how you manage a company.
Traditionally, runway is just how many months of cash you have left in the bank, right? If we burn 50 grand a month and we have 500 grand, we have 10 months of runway.
The standard accounting view. But in lean startup terms, runway is defined by how many opportunities to pivot you have left.
How many times you can run through that build, measure, learn loop before the money is gone.
Right, so if you only pivot every 5 months, you only have 2 chances to get it right. But if you can speed up the loop and validate your learning in 1 month,
you suddenly have 10 chances to pivot. You magically extend your runway without raising a single extra dollar.
That is the core power of the methodology.
Okay, so this all sounds great for 2 people in a garage, but how does this apply to massive established companies? We hear about the innovator's dilemma all the time.
Big companies struggle with this immensely because they are optimized for executing existing business models, not searching for new ones.
There is a brilliant example in the sources about this. A team at Google actually tried to build a direct competitor to IMVU.
And they had massive resources.
2 years of development, millions of dollars. And because they were Google, they launched it with this huge Big Bang PR event. They slapped their famous core brand name right on it.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Right, because it was an early stage product, so it inevitably had bugs and flaws. And because it carried the Google name, it became a massive corporate embarrassment.
The press tore apart.
And they ended up killing the project entirely. Meanwhile, tiny little IMVU was safely iterating in obscurity, making all those same mistakes, but learning from them without the whole world watching.
This is why large companies have to rethink how they innovate. Leadership must create what Scott Cook at Intuit calls a safe sandbox for experimentation.
What does a safe sandbox actually look like inside a massive corporation?
It means creating a protected environment where a small team can run these build, measure, learn loops without bringing down the entire enterprise.
And how do they protect the core brand?
Rule number 1, you never put your core brand name on a risky, untested new product.
You use a dummy brand.
You use a totally different brand identity. And rule number 2, no early PR. You do not seek press attention. You must keep the initial customer base as small as humanly possible while you are running your innovation accounting.
You want to test the value hypothesis. Does this thing actually deliver value before you test the growth hypothesis?
Exactly. Even companies like Apple likely don't let the very first consumer be the true first user of a new product. They test in closed, safe environments first.
They keep it in the sandbox until they have validated learning.
And that concept of validated learning is crucial.
Yeah, the visual Kanban boards they mention in the sources really drive this home.
The Kanban boards are a great way to align teams.
Normally, a team has a board with tasks moving from backlog to in progress to built.
Yeah.
And once it's built, the engineers celebrate and go home.
But Lean Startup adds a crucial final column.
Validated.
Right. A task isn't done just because the code is deployed. It's only done when you have measured its impact on customers and validated that it actually improved the business.
which totally shifts the focus from output to outcomes.
It also requires different types of employees at different stages. This is where aligning employees with their natural innovation strengths comes in.
Oh, the inventor versus scaler temperament.
Yes. In the early days of the sandbox, you need natural inventors. People who thrive in chaos, who are comfortable with extreme uncertainty, and who want to build something out of nothing.
But once the product is validated and ready to grow,
the inventors get bored, and they often break things just to keep it interesting. That's when you need scalers, people who excel at optimization, process, and handling massive volume.
so how do you manage that transition inside a big company?
You need a formal handoff between product phases. The inventors take the product through the sandbox phase. Once the innovation accounting proves a sustainable model, there is a formal transition where the scalers take over to drive growth.
And the inventors go back to the sandbox to start the next experiment.
Exactly. That is how large companies balance constant optimization with disruptive innovation work. They compartmentalize the temperaments.
Man, that makes so much sense. It
Yeah.
really is a complete management framework.
From the garage to the Fortune 500.
So, synthesizing all of this,
Mm-hmm.
what does this mean for you, the listener? Whether you are building a tech startup from scratch, launching a new initiative inside a massive corporation, or frankly just trying to get a weekend side hustle off the ground.
The rules are the same.
The goal is not to perfectly execute a flawed plan. Your first plan is probably wrong. The goal is to establish a baseline, run the experiments, and validate your learning as quickly as possible.
Protect your runway by pivoting faster.
Right. Use actionable metrics, not vanity numbers. And if you're in a big company, build a safe sandbox before you bet the core brand.
It's all about systematically removing the waste of building something nobody wants.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over, something that pushes beyond the book.
We've talked extensively today about pivoting your product based on customer feedback to find a sustainable business model. We've talked about the build, measure, learn loop. But consider this. What do you do when the very ecosystem you are validating your product in fundamentally shifts overnight?
Ooh, like a massive platform shift.
Exactly. Think about the leap from desktop to mobile, or the sudden explosion of generative AI. How does a startup pivot when it is not the customer's mind that changes, but the entire technological platform beneath them?
Does your innovation accounting even hold up when the baseline reality fractures?
It's a huge challenge. How do you measure progress when the yardstick itself is constantly changing?
That is a fascinating question to leave everyone with. You really have to stay on your toes.
You do.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep experimenting, keep testing your hypotheses, and most importantly, keep questioning your assumptions. We'll catch you next time.